When reading the comments of my berries video, someone commented at how the berry collected in Rescue in Mirror Temple must be the hardest in the game. It is a tough berry, but it also got me thinking, what are the hardest berries to collect in the game? As someone who's collected every red berry, I thought I'd look back at some of them and make a list. So here is my list of the top 10 hardest berries to collect in Celeste. For this list, I'm only looking at red berries, but they can come from any chapter in the game. This will also be focused on a casual playthrough instead of a speedrun. This is important since some berries are easy casually, but can be quite hard in a speedrun, and vice versa. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. First we have this seeded berry in 2000 meters in summits. Seeded berries are tricky because you have to collect all of them without touching the ground, but in this room, the seeds are very spread out, which makes it tricky to reach all of them. To make things harder, the wind activates when you collect your first seed. Go right to left, and you might run out of stamina. Go left to right, and you might lose the fight against the wind. Whichever way you go, this berry is tricky. This next one is in Search in Mirror Temple. This room only has one way in and out, with the berry at the end and a seeker guarding it. Seekers will hone in and charge at you as soon as they see you, which makes this room pretty tough. Then there's the fact that the only platforms you have are these thin pillars, which are very easy to miss and hit spikes. Oh, and there's also the fact that the Seeker will never stop hunting you. Even if you land a bonk, it will only buy you about 2 seconds apiece. A frustrating berry to be sure. Next up we have this berry in Huge Mess in Celestial Resort. This berry drives me crazy. You have dust bunnies racing up and down the edge of every wall, which is really frustrating and difficult to avoid. But to make things worse, you have the fuzz. For those that don't know, you can find these hairs on platforms, which you first find in the resort. Whenever you walk over them, dust grows on them, which means you can't step there again without dying. So not only do you have to avoid the dust bunnies on the side, you also have to plan where you land for your journey to the berry and back. Not fun. Now I will add that in this clip I did have the towels, which made an extra little platform here. If you hit the button to tidy up the towels before you do this room, you won't have that platform at all, making this berry even harder. So if you're struggling to get this berry, make sure to do the boxes first. So here's another berry from 2000 meters in summits. The first thing about this berry is that it's at the end of quite a long room, which means if you die, you'll have to start from the beginning. But even if you make it to this ledge, getting the berry isn't easy. Without using any advanced tech, the only way you can reach this berry is with the help of a snowball. To get this berry, you need to use both your dashes to reach this wall, wait for a snowball to bonk, which will help give you your dashes back, and then dash to the far wall. All of this with the wind pushing you back. Anytime you have to time a jump or dash onto something like that, makes getting a berry so much harder than normal. This one is in Resort, and is the second berry in Elevator Shaft. I truly cannot stand this berry. To get it, first you need to stand on this floor, which is a very fast dust bunny sweeping back and forth, and it's covered with the fuzz of death of course. You have to grab this wall, squeeze through a tiny gap with an up dash, grab the berry, fall back through and grab the wall again, and somehow make it back over the floor, hoping that there are a few safe spots to land on that hasn't been fuzzed. Even then you have to work your way right to the end of the room, before the berry will collect. I've seen so many people try and get this berry in a casual play, and give up after a few attempts, and honestly I don't blame them at all. Well, here we are again at the Celestial Resort Hotel, this time on the roof. This is honestly one of the hardest sections in the game, and it features this berry. It's too high up to reach with a dash. The only way to reach it without using any advanced tech is to carefully time a bop on Oshiro, dash up to the top, and carefully fall through with the berry. The fact that you have to wait for Oshiro to charge you, then dash forward, then dash through the gap at the top easily makes this the hardest berry in the level. Next up is this berry I mentioned in the intro, and it's the only berry to collect in Rescue and Mirror Temple. Rescue is a hard section to begin with. You need to carry Theo with you, which slows you down a lot, but at the same time avoid seekers that relentlessly hunt you down. This one is hidden behind a wall, and since the button is covered with spikes, you need Theo to hit it, but of course, you can't reach by just jumping and throwing. To get the extra height, you need to jump off a seeker. Bopping a seeker isn't usually too hard, but when you have to do this with Theo, then time a tricky throw, it gets much harder. A pretty evil berry for certain. This berry is in 1,500 meters in the summit, which is in my opinion, one of the most difficult sub-chapters in the A summit. First, there's nowhere to stand, which means without this crystal, there's no way to refresh your dashes at all. Second, all of the walls are covered with fuzz, which means you can't go back the same way you came. Combine all of this with the fact that you need to collect 3 coins that are all quite difficult to reach, and you have one difficult berry. Okay, this one truly is a nightmare. In core, you'll come across a room like this. It will also be cold, since core can either be hot or cold, and it leads to a switch to turn it hot, which also opens a secret passageway that leads to a berry. Getting to that switch in one piece is, in a word, traumatic. You need to bounce on all of these icicles, which are constantly moving up, making things so much harder to time. You could be a bit too early, a bit too late, you could bump your head on the top of one. It's so difficult to get the right rhythm. There's also bumpers in the way, which is fun. It can often turn into a game of pinball if you hit one of those. If you manage to make it through all of that, then somehow reach the switch, you will realise that you still need both of your dashes to make it through this gap. This means you have to make it through using barely any dashes. As I said, this berry is a nightmare. Now, this berry really is horrifying. We're in 2,000 meters in summit again, and this time we need to get on this elevator block so we can try and get this berry here. Now, the thing to remember about elevator blocks is that they go at their own pace. They don't speed up, they don't slow down, so if you mess your timing up, you're fresh out of luck. So you have to try and ride this thing while trying to jump, dash and climb all around the spikes it goes past. Now here's the fun part. You have to collect this berry while climbing upwards at the same speed as the elevator while avoiding the spikes, while not running out of stamina, and land back on the elevator at the top. The time pressure for this berry is just crazy. There's nowhere to land, no margin for error, you just have to perform quite a few well-timed dashes and grabs and hope that you can land back on safe ground at the end. This berry is on another level. And that brings us to the end of another video. Thank you very much for watching. I'm really enjoying making these videos. I'm really amazed at how many views I've managed to get. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the comments. I hope you enjoy more of these videos that I make. Hopefully you enjoy the Celeste content, and hopefully I can keep some more of this up to keep you coming back. And with that, have a very good day, and I'll see you later.